Charlie Chaplin starts to film The Kid in 1919. He is only 30, and his character of the tramp is already universally popular. The shoot lasts for over a year, from July 30th, 1919 till August 1920. What had been intended as a short movie ends up as a film almost an hour long. The Kid is pivotal, both in Chaplin's work and in his life. It allows him to escape a personal crisis sparked by many factors. Plagued by marital difficulties and a failure of inspiration, he is driven by a need to move on and develop both his work and his character. This, his first long film, will have a powerful revitalizing effect, allowing him an opportunity for self-analysis. Having just lost his first child by Mildred Harris, Norman Spencer, at the age of 3 days, Chaplin starts casting for the role of the Kid. This process of coming to terms with death reminds him of his own childhood unhappiness between garret and workhouse and his relationship with his mother. On the set, everyone felt that Chaplin was as caring and friendly towards Jackie Coogan as he would have been to his own son. But if he makes the child in The Kid a miniature of himself, the two characters are also nonetheless two moments in the life of the same man. The adult Charlie Chaplin and the little boy he once was, of whom this is the only photo that remains. At the time of his discovery of Jackie Coogan Jr., who is to be the Kid, Chaplin is at a low, suffering from an inspirational block. One evening, he sees a music hall number in which a variety dancer rounds off his act by having his 4-year-old son perform some little dramas which charm everyone present. Jackie Coogan instantly captivates and inspires Chaplin, who wants to engage him immediately, hoping to make the most of this revival in his creative energy. The child is a revelation in The Kid. His father takes part in the filming as an assistant, as well as playing several small parts, including that of the pickpocket in the night shelter. Chaplin uses young Coogan for months in other short films. When Lord and Lady Mountbatten visit from England, Chaplin improvises a little private film, Nice and Friendly, shot in Douglas Fairbanks' house with Jackie Coogan. In an oddly funereal shot, Chaplin has him covered in a real black shroud. Two years before, Chaplin had signed a contract with the powerful First National. They were charged with the distribution of his films, and he became the sole producer. He immediately built his own studio, inaugurated in 1918 with the short film A Dog's Life. This shot from that film gives a striking foretaste of The Kid. His contract with the First National committed him to deliver 8 short films in the first year. But, increasingly inflexible, increasingly perfectionist, Chaplin took more than 4 years to produce that number. He feels that The Kid is his chance to change his style and produce a long, ambitious film, and he keeps extending the shoot. First National grows concerned. To reassure the backers, he invites the movie theater owners onto the set and directs a scene with a young actor who everybody loves. Unwillingly, First National ends up paying the extra costs involved in the transition from a 2-reel to a 6-reel film. They then turn this into a selling point. These difficulties merely fueled Chaplin's desire for independence. It is during the shooting of The Kid that, 3 films short of fulfilling his commitment to First National, he establishes United Artists with Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and D.W. Griffith. Three of the women who were, or would be, important in Charlie Chaplin's life are involved in the shooting of The Kid: Edna Purviance, Mildred Harris, and Lita Gray. The role of the seduced and abandoned mother went, quite naturally, to Edna Purviance, who had been his leading lady and companion for years before his marriage to Mildred Harris. During the filming, she starts to drink. Chaplin goes so far as to try to find a replacement for her, but she manages to finish the film. His divorce from his first wife, Mildred Harris, seriously interferes with the shooting and editing of The Kid. He had married her, very quietly, in October 1918, believing her to be pregnant. She was 17. When Sam Goldwyn, the producer, gets her to sign a contract for several films which he announces in the professional press, it is against Chaplin's wishes. Chaplin objects to this exploitation of Mildred Harris as Mrs. Chaplin. Immediately after the death of their first child, the press seizes on rumors of divorce. Chaplin is very upset by this publicity around his private life, and shooting on The Kid stops for several weeks. Mildred Harris's lawyers threatened to seize the film negative to ensure the future payment of Chaplin's debts to her. This forces him to go secretly to a hotel in Salt Lake City to edit the film. In this telegram, he asks for the negative to be hidden in a safe place until the divorce comes through, which occurred in November 1920. It is while filming The Kid that Chaplin meets Lita Gray, the woman who becomes the second Mrs. Chaplin in 1924. At the time of The Kid, she is only 12 years old, and her mother has brought her along for the casting of The Street Children. But Chaplin notices her and gets the makeup and wardrobe departments to make her look like an 18-year-old. It is she who plays the angel temptress in the dream scene. Although the kid focuses on the relationship between a child and an adoptive father, Chaplin also uses it to come to the defense of a mother who is abandoned with her baby. For him, this represents a way of redeeming the memory of his own mother, whom he hasn't seen since leaving England. 2 years before, he had started procedures to bring his mother to the United States. But while he is filming The Kid, he is afraid that the reunion might disturb his work on this film, which is such a clear evocation of their past. He asks his brother, Sidney, to defer her arrival for a while. Hannah Chaplin joins her son in the United States a month after the American release of the film in February 1921. But Chaplin's revisiting of his past does not end with the completion of the film. 6 months later, Chaplin surprises his team and his friends when, on an impulse, he decides to break off from filming the short film, Payday, and return to Europe for the first time. He receives a triumphant welcome in London and returns to the scenes of his childhood, the memory of them recently rekindled by The Kid. Jackie Coogan, Chaplin's kid, presents a showing for orphans at the Cinema Madeleine in Paris. When the film comes out, audiences all over the world warmly receive it. It is Chaplin's first big success, and the kid Jackie, now a child star, is greeted riotously wherever the film is shown. In 1971, Chaplin creates the definitive version of his film and composes music for it. For this final version, he decides to cut 3 highly symbolic scenes. The kid does not feature in these scenes, which deal with the role of the mother and how she feels about marriage and motherhood. It shows that even at this point, 50 years later, Chaplin has still not finished rewriting his family history.
It's Charlie Chaplin. Yes. I don't remember very well, but I remember a film where a child was taken and didn't want to leave. I really liked that one.
The Kid?
That's the one.
Charlie Chaplin. Ahmadi.
Charlie Chaplin. بلند بگو من بشنوم. Charlie Chaplin.
حالا برنامه ها چارلی چاپلین کاری که اون انجام میده
He walks like this. I hope one day I'll be the Charlie Chaplin of Iran.
In his home in Tehran, Iranian filmmaker Abbas Kiarostami, for whom childhood has long been a favorite subject, reviews Chaplin's film for us. Joining him as he renews his acquaintance with the kid are Reza Hashemi, the actor who played the child in his first short film, The Bread and Alley, 32 years ago, and his son Amir Abbas, who is seeing the film for the first time.
Then one day, the people who had come to their house throw the little boy in a van. Why I said that was the things Chaplin did were for his child. He goes onto the roof of his house, and when the car comes round the other side of his house, he jumps onto the back of the van. Afterwards, he throws the person out of the car and takes the child away. Then he puts him to bed and gives him breakfast.
Do you remember the scene where the tramp is in bed and the child looks after him, feeds him and helps him to get up, as if it were the little boy who were in charge?
Yes, I thought then that the child was really the father, because otherwise it's the father who does everything for the little boy.
In Iranian society, there are strong bonds between children and men who aren't their fathers. Fathers go out to work, so relationships with other adults around them, like uncles, cousins, or neighbors, are sometimes stronger than father-son relationships. I hadn't thought of it like this before, but now I see the film again. I feel there is a great similarity to my own films. In Chaplin's film, as in mine, and Life Goes On, is a good example. The father changes places with the child.
Do you do that sometimes? Play at being the child while he's the father?
Yes, that's the only way you can understand a child, by putting yourself in his place.
I didn't think this film would have such a great effect on me again. All I knew was that I'd seen it once. I must have been between 10 and 15, and I hadn't seen it since. Now I see this film in another way, not as I did at that time, and not as a normal viewer. This film touches me as a filmmaker, and as such, I can see how deeply it affects me. Today, watching the film again, I thought that it had probably had a subconscious effect on me since, many years later, I shot a very similar scene in one of my films.
Salam alaikum.
What strikes me most in this film is not the message, but the directing style, which is extraordinary. It's the way in which the story is told, how articulately Chaplin tells the story, even though it's a silent movie. The problem with films today is that people have forgotten how to tell a story. The shots are all filmed in the same plane. The camera never goes past a certain line. It sees the scenes from a spectator's viewpoint. It wasn't conscious, but I think there was a real moral choice which respected the intimacy of the house. As with my films, everything was filmed in the same plane, as you just emphasized in that scene of the father and son, which we've just watched. I had my first conflict with shooting on my very first film, first with my cameraman, and then with my editor, who were both professionals concerned above all with cinema. I remember they said he doesn't want to move his camera because that requires courage and you have to respect the links. He puts his camera there so that the man can come forward in a single shot and go past. Because it's easier like that. But my philosophy back then is one I've stayed faithful to ever since. When you've waited so long for someone to appear from a distance, it's worth waiting for him to reach us. There is a similarity between my films and Chaplin's, but it's not necessarily because I was influenced by Chaplin's movies that I've used my camera that way. The similarities are inevitable because in our films there is a philosophy of life rather than a philosophy of cinema. The child in the cradle is brilliant. He does exactly the right thing at the right moment, like looking in the right direction toward the father. Chaplin directed him as he would have directed an adult. I feel that the adults overact a bit, but if you watch the children, they are completely natural. If you watch them, they're like children in films today. That's particularly true in the scene where the mother is sitting with a baby and the kid sits down next to her on a step. That's a very contemporary image. The adults' acting is a bit demonstrative, exaggerated even, but the children's never is, except their hands sometimes, but never their faces. Have you ever broken windows like that child?
No.
Did you like it when he broke the windows?
No.
If I gave you some stones, wouldn't you want to break a window? If you knew that a window breaking made a nice noise, you should try it once to find out how enjoyable it is. You come here, pick up a stone, then throw it.